here we're factoring by grouping. Typically, when you see polynomials where you need to use factoring by grouping, you'll have at least four terms in your polynomial. So in this case, we have x to the third minus 2x squared minus 9x plus 18. And oftentimes they'll already be kind of grouped together. And we're going to try to look for a common factor in the first two terms and the last two terms. And let's use a different color here. So if I group x to the third minus 2x squared, and I just look at those two numbers and find a common factor between x to the third and x or negative 2x squared, I know that this has 3 x's and this has 2 x's. So I can divide this first set of numbers by x squared and factor that out. And then my attention's turned towards the second group of numbers, minus 9x plus 18. I can't factor any variables out because one's a variable with a coefficient and one's a constant. But I do notice that there's a 9 here, and that 9 is also a factor of 18. And because I want to eliminate as many negatives as possible, I'm going to divide the second binomial by 9, factor that out. Okay, so this is what my answer looks like. So I'm factoring out my x squared. When you divide x to the third by x squared here, we're subtracting the exponents. 3 minus 2 is 1. So x to the first, or just x, minus 2x squared divided by x squared. The x squareds will reduce down to 1, or cancel out, we might say, which just leaves us with minus 2 there. All right, and then I'll put my minus 9 that I'm factoring out here. And negative 9x divided by negative 9, the negative 9s would divide, and if you remember, your identity property turns into 1, or 1x. And 18 divided by negative 9 is negative 2. And this brings us to a good way to check these problems is when what's in the parentheses matches. You pretty much know that you've at least factored that first step correctly. And then the next step is just to write this in the correct format. So we're taking x squared minus 9, x squared minus 9, and we're multiplying that times x minus 2. All right, so the x minus 2 makes an appearance. This x minus 2 makes an appearance down here. And the x squared and the minus 9, we put those together over here. And then we can see if we can factor it anymore. X minus 2, we can't factor anymore, but x squared minus 9 is a perfect, or a difference of squares. In this case, we're looking for factors of 9 that add up to 0, or have a sum of 0. And I know that 3 times 3 is 9, and positive 3 plus negative 3 is 0. So I can factor x squared minus 9 into x minus 3 times the quantity x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 2.